He was looked down on for being poor and weak, but when he discovers a mysterious system, his power level increases by over 2 million, and he shocks everyone with his new skills. The story begins as a boy named Fan suddenly wakes up in his class after seeing the fight between two great martial artists. He has no idea what just happened, and the teacher tells everyone that the registration for the martial arts exam has started, so they should discuss what they want to do with their parents. One of Fan's friends named Yang thinks it's an opportunity for them to make a name for themselves, but his other friend Chen thinks it's just a waste of money since they'll never pass the test. A student shows them a video of a boy who claims to be near the battlefield of an 8th rank master, but nothing's happening in the video. Fan goes to an internet cafe where he does his own research, realizing the whole world is dominated by martial artists. He learns that he has less than a month to prepare for the martial arts exam, and he thinks it might change his life, so he decides to take the test. Fan returns home, and his sister tells him to pay her the money, which their mother gave him to split with her. But he starts pinching her cheeks, so she reports him to their mother, who asks him to stop teasing her. As they have dinner, Fan tells his father that he wants to take the martial arts exam, so he gives him money to pay for the registration, telling him the exam is a lifelong commitment. After that, Fan hears his parents talking about how they're running out of money, and his father notes that blood-boosting pills help for martial artists. So he'll try to borrow a few from the factory, because he doesn't want Fan to be held back because of their financial status. The next day, Fan tells his friends that he registered for the exam, which shocks them, but Chen thinks he just wasted his money. The teacher mentions that their senior named Wong will be coming to talk about his experiences to help students who have registered for the exam. He notes that since Fan registered, he can go with Wu and Yang to pick Wong up, because they will all be taking the exam. At night, Fan's mother gives him the blood chi pills his father got for him, and seeing how small they are, he doesn't understand why they're so expensive. But as he touches one of them, he's suddenly teleported to a mysterious place, where a screen appears in front of him. But before he can understand what's happening, he suddenly returns to his room, thinking he must have been hallucinating. But as he touches the other pill, he's teleported there once again, and he realizes he's standing on top of a statue. He sees that the number on the screen has doubled, and he wonders if it's showing the market price of the pills. But he doesn't think it's true, because there's a huge difference in what they're really worth. He wonders if it shows the true value of items, and he touches the screen, but his body suddenly starts to hurt. Meanwhile, we see a criminal named Ban, who has kidnapped a woman, and he senses the energy changes happening in Fan's body. Wong gets a call from someone, who tells him the person he was hired to take care of has run away, but Wong reminds him that he told them to wait for him before doing anything. He demands 500,000 martial points to complete the job, and they accept his demands since they have no other choice. He also senses Fan's energy, who's shocked to see that his martial points have gone down by 10,000, and his vital energy has only increased by 0.1. He's annoyed since it will take a huge amount of pills to increase his energy, but as he returns to his room, he's surprised to see that the pills haven't disappeared. The next day, Fan goes to pick up Wong from the station, but he doesn't understand why everyone else is so excited. So they tell him Wong isn't a normal student because he became a martial artist in high school, and he even catches criminals. Wong suddenly arrives, telling them they shouldn't think little of themselves, because everyone has a different starting point. Wu wonders why he isn't coming from inside the station, so he mentions that he arrived earlier, and Wu introduces everyone to him, as Wong realizes that he sensed Fan's energy last night. Wu tries to show off in front of Wong, and notes that he has the highest energy in their class, but Wong reveals that Fan's energy is almost the same. Yang wonders if Fan has eaten blood chi pills, but he mentions that he's just been working out, and they tell Wong to get on the bus. But he wants to walk to school, since he's already been sitting down for so long. They go to the school, where Wong gives a speech to the students, who are happy to see him. After that, he gives his contact info to Wu and his friends, and he tells them to call him if they need anything. They offer to treat him to a meal, but he leaves because he has something else to take care of, and Fan thinks about how it takes a lot of resources to train a martial artist. So he needs to think of a way to pay for his training, because he can't keep using his family's money. He suddenly remembers that the room above his house is leaking, so he goes to take care of it, but we see that Ban is keeping Fan's aunt hostage there. Fan keeps banging at the door, and he calls out to his aunt, but Ban tells him to stop knocking, and explains that he's the new tenant. Fan asks him about the noise he just heard, but Ban refuses to tell him anything, and Fan mentions that his bathroom is leaking. So he needs to check it out, and Ban wonders if Fan has seen his wanted poster, but he doesn't think Fan knows him because of the way he's acting. He enters the room, and Ban is surprised because he senses fluctuations in his energy. As Fan looks around, he finds a towel covered in blood, which makes him remember that he saw Ban in a wanted poster. But he asks Fan if he has found the problem, so he mentions that the waterproof coating is leaking. As he prepares to leave, Ban stops him, telling him the apartment has problems that his aunt didn't tell him about, so he tells Fan to wait in the living area. He wonders if Fan has seen the wanted poster, but he notes that he doesn't have time to pay attention to such things, because the martial arts exam is about to start. Fan doesn't know what he can do to get out of the situation, but he remembers that he has Wong's number, so he discreetly sends him a message. Ban mentions that the reward for catching the criminal is 1 million martial points, but Fan notes that he thought it was only 100,000, so Ban realizes that he has seen the poster. He hears his aunt moving around, so Ban tells him to give her the water he boiled since she's thirsty. But he gets a call from Wong, and he picks it up, telling Wong to save him, but Ban suddenly kicks him away. He knows he can't live in the city anymore, but he plans on eliminating Fan before he leaves, and he prepares to finish him off. But Fan dodges the attack, and he's surprised that he can recover his energy. He punches Fan and tries to kill him, but Wong suddenly kicks him away, and Fan wonders how he got there so quickly. So he reveals that he came to the city to take care of Ban, and he stayed in the area because he sensed fluctuations in energy. They free his aunt, who tells them she didn't know Ban was a criminal, revealing that he tied her up once she found out. After that, they turn over Ban to the authorities, and Wong is surprised by how Fan managed to face him, but Fan thinks he shouldn't reveal his secret to him. As they go through Ban's belongings, Wong is surprised to see third-tier gems, and he takes them for himself, before giving the rest to Fan, telling him he can't use third-level resources at his current level. Wong explains that the blood chi pills are used to increase the upper limit of chi in blood, and they provide the greatest benefit before a person becomes a martial artist. The chi and blood elixir are usually used during the final breakthrough, which will turn a person into a first-tier martial artist. Except for the peak of the 9th tier, the rest of the tiers are divided into 4 stages, and a person needs to take the appropriate chi and blood elixir to help them break through each stage. The bone refining pill helps in strengthening the bones, which support their energy, and it also helps with damage to the skin and meridians. Last is the protecting internal organs pill, which the martial artists need to support their 5 major internal organs, because it might get damaged once their energy and blood surpass its limit. Fan asks him which school he should choose after taking the exam, but Wong tells him to focus on passing it first, telling him there are several schools to choose from. Fan's sister arrives and yells at him, since he didn't pick her up from school, but she's shocked as she sees Wong standing there. After that, as Fan goes through the pills, he's teleported to the statue, where he's shocked to see that his martial value has gone up by 2 million. The statue suddenly starts acting up, and a unit appears next to his vitality, which makes him realize the system has upgraded. He wonders how he can increase his vitality, but his body starts glowing, and his martial points begin dropping, while his vitality increases. The next day, everyone's surprised as Wu reveals that his father bought a vitality meter because he couldn't go to the testing center every day. He invites Fan to check his energy as well, since Wong said they're on the same level. So they go to Wu's house, where he notes that a person's energy is usually calm, so to measure the peak energy Fan possesses, he needs to exert himself. Wu is shocked to see how much energy Fan has, so he checks him again to make sure there isn't an error. The next day, they go to take the martial arts exam, where the administrator tells them the martial arts community has no need for reckless fighters. He mentions that health is the top priority of the exam, so the participants will be allowed to use elixirs, and he reveals that they need to get 112 points to pass the test. Everyone goes into their health chamber, but they're surprised by how much Fan's chamber is glowing, and they realize that his energy level is extremely high. All of Fan's friends pass the exam, and he calls Wong, asking him about the Nanjing University, so he tells Fan to meet him. Wu is annoyed that Fan hid his true power from him, but he mentions that he'll beat Fan once they become martial artists. Fan shows his test results to his family, who all start crying tears of joy, and the next day, he goes to meet Wong. But he's surprised to see that he has a girl named Nini with him, so Wong mentions that she's his teacher's daughter. We go back to when Wong and his friends were injured after a fight, but their teacher Quan plans to go back into the portal to save their president Shen. He mentions that after tonight's attack ends, the entrance to the underground cave will be closed, so he needs to get Shen back before then. Wong tells him he shouldn't feel guilty, because everything that happened is because they didn't listen to his advice. But Quan notes that he was their leader for the mission, so it was his responsibility to keep them safe. He tells Wong to take care of everything while he's gone, and as he enters the portal, Wong notes that if Quan doesn't return, he'll marry his daughter. Back in the present, Wong suddenly tries to kick Fan, who blocks the attack, but Wong continues attacking and slams him to the ground. He wonders why Wong is attacking him, but he realizes that he's able to take his attacks, and Wong mentions that people who have undergone a second bone tempering are in high demand. He tells Fan there are 102 martial arts schools, but he only recommends 4 of them, revealing that the top-ranked school is the Jinglin Martial University, while the second-ranked is Mowu. He notes that they have better resources than the rest, and he reveals that at the Nanjing University, people who are aiming to become warriors can apply to get first-tier pills for free. They can also apply for first-tier bone tempering pills and wrist guards for half the price, while Jinglin and Mowu offer them for free. He also mentions that Jinglin and Mowu have 9th-tier mentors, so their strength will determine the heights he can reach, and Fan decides to go to Mowu. After that, Fan's parents go to drop him off at the train station, where they tell him to call them if he needs money, but he notes that they should save up for his sister. She starts crying, and tells him to let her know if he gets a girlfriend, but he pinches her cheeks, telling her it will be difficult to find someone as chubby as her. Fan arrives at Mowu, and as he gets off the bus, he's shocked to see how big the gate is. A third-year student named Quinn tells Fan that Mowu helps its students understand themselves, and he mentions that Fan shouldn't feel special just because he got in. He's surprised as Fan tells him where he's from, and he notes that Fan should learn to respect his seniors. As Quinn leaves, he plans on taking bone refinement pills, and he thinks that once his refinement is complete, he'll be able to defeat Wong. After that, as the receptionist checks Fan's documents, she's impressed that he reached the 2nd level of bone refinement. But after she scans his body, she's shocked to see he underwent refinement 3 times. She thinks he has endless potential, and she gives him the room key, telling a girl named Yoon to take him and another student to their rooms. Yoon gives them the layout of the student area, and Fan is surprised by how big it is. So she explains that the school gives martial artists such living conditions to improve their moods, because they're usually depressed. Fan goes to his room, and another student named Luke greets him, telling him he lives in the opposite room. As they introduce themselves, Lu realizes that Fan is from the same place as Wong, so he wonders if Fan knows him, and he mentions that Wong was his senior in high school. Lu reveals that Wong is the strongest in his rank, and he mentions how Wong defeated 8 martial arts training schools in one day. He's surprised as he senses that Fan has reached the 3rd bone refinement, and he wonders if Lu has become a martial artist. But he notes that even though he's in the 1st tier, he can't defeat Fan in a real fight. After that, they go to listen to the mentor's speech, and Quinn is also dragged there by a girl, who mentions that the martial arts club is looking for talented people. Quinn thinks the president is wasting his time, so that he won't be able to surpass him, but the girl notes that no matter what he does, he'll never be able to reach Wong. The doors suddenly close, which confuses the students, and the head of the Mowu named Huang yells at them for being late. Everyone's shocked by the pressure he's putting with his voice, and he finds the latecomers 20 credit points, telling them 1 credit is equal to 30,000 martial art points. He tells everyone that the first thing he'll teach them is the importance of the rules, so if they were lazy before joining Mowu, they need to fix their attitude. He notes that a warrior is a protector of the world, and joining Mowu might become the start of their tragic story if they don't give it their all. The mentors arrive in a grand fashion, and they each introduce themselves, but Fan is confused to see a woman with them, and Lu thinks she isn't a mentor, since she didn't say anything. A beam of light comes out from their bodies, and starts to blow everyone away, as Lu mentions that it's time for the new students to introduce themselves. The woman is impressed by Fan, wondering which family he belongs to, and the mentors note that Mowu treats everyone equally regardless of their background. But she reveals she has a grudge against his family, so she doesn't want to train him. Fan and Lu manage to hold their ground, and Quinn is impressed that they're chatting with each other, even though they're facing the energy bursts of 5 mid-level masters. Mowu's principal named Yu arrives, and everyone's amazed by the warm light he's emitting. He notes that it hasn't been long since Mowu was formed, but it has still produced plenty of skilled martial artists. He tells everyone that people like him are a thing of the past, while the new generation is filled with hope. So they'll protect them with their lives, and he hopes a day will come when people will only use martial arts for their health. After that, Huang mentions that every student will get a top-tier Qian blood pill, which makes them happy, but he notes that their training competition will begin in 20 minutes. They go to the training grounds, where one of the mentors named Tang tells them the building has 9 floors, but their access will be limited to 4. He explains the role of each floor, and he notes that when the competition ends, every student will belong to the floor they're standing on. But every floor has a limit of 400 people, so if there are more students than the limit, everyone will lose 30 credit points. The rest of the mentors who are watching them mention that a true martial artist needs to be skilled in both fighting and literature, while Yua hopes everyone will turn into capable warriors. They wonder if there are any restrictions, so Tang tells them they can't use metal weapons, but they'll be given wooden weapons on the first floor. As the doors open, everyone rushes into the building, and they immediately start fighting after choosing their weapons. Lu mentions that most of them are trying to get to the 4th floor, so Fan splits up from him, telling him they'll meet at the top. The other students try to stop Fan, but they're no match for him, and he continues to make his way up. He watches them fight, and he realizes that most of them haven't had any combat training, so he thinks Wang was exaggerating when he talked about their skills. Meanwhile, one of the students named Yunxi attacks another student, and he's about to fall off the stairs, so she saves him, but he grabs her and throws her away. A student named Zhao saves her, and as the boy tries to attack them from behind, a girl named Xiaomei hits him and throws him off the stairs. We see Quinn lurking outside a room, but Tang sees him and wonders why he's sneaking around. Quinn tells him one of his friends wants to enter the Mowu cave, so he needs Yua's signature, but Tang tells him to wait until the competition is over. Lu also keeps rushing towards the 4th floor, and he easily defeats everyone in his path, but a group of students tries to stop him. One of them bites his leg, while another punches his face, but they leave him and continue moving forward. The students start arriving on the 4th floor, and as Lu reaches it, he immediately looks for Song Ting, since he was the one who attacked him. Lu jumps towards him, so he blocks, but Lu still kicks him down. Fan arrives as well, and he mentions how he heard everyone in Mowu is a genius, so he came there to see the talent with his own eyes. But after looking at how they fight, he realizes that most of them have no idea what they're doing. He tells them how Wang has top-notch skills, even though he didn't go to a prestigious school, but every newcomer at Mowu is weak compared to him. Huang tells everyone to defeat Fan, telling them whoever beats him will get 50 credit points, but he asks Huang what he'll get if he beats them. So Huang notes that he'll get 1 point for every non-warrior he defeats, but 5 points if he beats a warrior. Before the fight begins, they ask whose side Lu will take, and he decides to fight with Fan. Everyone starts attacking them, but they're no match for them, and Xiaomei decides to enter the fight. But Fan uses another student named Lei as a shield, and she hits him in the face. Lu takes a vitality pill, and he tells Fan that he needs to defeat enough students to make up for the cost of the pill. Xiao tells everyone not to attack aimlessly, telling them they need to form 3 groups, and the first group manages to separate Fan and Lu. Xiao tells the next group to attack Fan's legs, and they're able to hit him several times, so he tells Lu to defeat the non-martial artists who are attacking him. But Zhao gets in the way, and Lu hits him in the head, but Zhao endures the blow and kicks him away. The mentors are impressed by Zhao, but they're more amazed by Fan, and they wonder if he belongs to a prestigious family. But an administrator notes that he's from an ordinary family, and we learn that it isn't strange for a person belonging to a simple family to have high vital energy. But they think he couldn't have gotten so strong if he didn't have a mentor, and Huang thinks Fan must have been trained by Wang, who's the student of Quan, and Tang notes that he once had to fight him. He thinks Quan would have reached the 6th tier in a few years, but he never returned after he went to the southern underground lair. Huang tells the students that if they can't beat Fan within 10 minutes, half of their credit points will be deducted, which pumps them up even more. Fan is on his last legs, so he tries to use the system to restore his health, but he knows that it will expose his secret. So he takes a health pill as he uses the system to make everyone think the pill restored his health, but everyone's still shocked at how fast he recovered. He jumps away from everyone, and they try to get to him, but he manages to survive until the time limit ends. Huang hopes everyone will remember the humiliation they just faced, and he mentions that they need to choose a mentor. The next day, Huang tells everyone that before choosing a mentor, they should consider their requirements so that they don't aim for something much higher than they can achieve. Everyone starts rushing towards Tang, but Fan decides to look around before making a decision, and a mentor named Fenru catches his attention. She tells him to join her, because she's the only one who can ensure his safety, and she reveals that Wang has defeated most of the seniors in the school, so she tells Fan to stay away from them. She adds that since he defeated all the newcomers, so everyone will be coming for him, and she reveals that she also has shares in a pill manufacturing company. So he'll have access to pills for free, which shocks everyone, and he asks her what will be different if he chooses her instead of the other mentors. So she reveals that she can give him access to areas that others can't enter, so he decides to choose her. But Tang tells Fenru that she's responsible for her students, revealing that she's mentored 12 students over the years, but half of them ended up getting seriously injured before graduating. Fan becomes shocked hearing this, but Zhao also chooses her as his mentor, and Lu tells Fan about her reputation, telling him she's even more difficult to handle than Tang. After that, Fenru tells Fan how non-warriors only cultivate the 14 main meridians, but in order to break through to the first rank, he needs to use the branch meridians as well. She tells him to take the protective and bond-tempering pills, and as he eats them, he immediately opens up 10 meridians. She notes that he needs to use his vital energy to open all the sub-closed meridians, telling him he can eat the vitality pill if he becomes low on energy. He follows her instructions and breaks through to the first rank, while she mentions that he has good leg techniques, but he lacks in rapid power attacks. He notes that since he reached the first rank, he needs the 20 vitality pills that she promised, but she kicks him out of the room, telling him he needs to earn them. After he leaves, she calls her ex-husband and tells him if he involves her people, no one will participate in the exchange competition, but he reminds her that they're fighting to avenge their daughter. Fan sees Zhao striking a wooden pillar, and Fan finds him impressive, but thinks he's wasting plenty of energy. Fenru arrives, and she kicks a hole through the pillar, telling them they need to concentrate their energy and use the tempered part of the bone to attack. She tells Fan to try it, and he hits the pillar, but he only hurts his own foot, so she tells him to get pointed alloy boots. Fan goes to the logistics department to get the boots, where a teacher named Lee mentions that he can only get D and E level boots because the higher level ones need to be customized. He offers the E level boots for 40 and the D level boots for 50 points, which shocks Fan, but he decides to get them since he has no other choice. After that, Fan goes to the training hall with Fenru and Zhao, but they see that it's already being used, so they decide to leave. The students in the hall stop Fan, and one of them, named Lin, notes that Wang hurt his brother, so Fan can settle the score for him, but Zhao tells him to ignore them. They ask Fan if he's giving up, but he knows that they'll keep coming after them, so he decides to fight. A member of the martial arts club is also present, and she decides to oversee their fight, as a boy named Chan steps up to fight first. He covers his body with energy, and he charges at Fan, who dodges all of his attacks and counters with a kick, but Chan blocks it and sends Fan flying into the ropes. Fan is forced to be on the defensive, and he tells them he isn't like Wang because he's never even had a fight. He notes that he's willing to let them beat him up if they don't hit his face, but Fenrir yells at him to stop talking so much and tells him to incorporate the principle of foot thrusting into his stance. So he follows her advice, and Chan kicks him away, but he still rushes towards him. He's about to blow a hole through him, and he stops himself before he hits Chan, but he still falls to the ground. Lin mentions that his brother was also a genius like Fan, and his family expected him to reach the 4th rank, but he's stuck at the 1st rank because of Wang. Fenrir knows who his brother is, but she reveals that he used up all his credit points, so he started bullying weaker students to get money, and he eventually ran into Wang. Lin notes that Fan can't back down since he already accepted the fight, but he decides to retreat when Wang arrives with Quen. After that, Fan wonders why Wang didn't tell him he was coming there, so he notes that Quen brought him, telling Fan to train for the National Newcomers Exchange competition. He explains that it's a battle between schools for resources, and even though the rules mention that only newcomers can participate, all the martial artists still fight in it. He reveals that it's being broadcast nationwide, so if Fan wants people to notice him, he needs to perform well. The mentors gather 10 freshmen, telling them about how the exchange competition has been announced by the media, and the school that wins it will get a 20% increase in its resource allocation. Fenrir notes that if the vice president Sean needs the resources so badly, he should fight himself, but Tang notes that he's doing everything for Mo-woo. Lu tells Fan that Sean is Fenrir's ex-husband, and Tang mentions how everything's happening because Wong defeated the third-tier students from Mo-woo and Jingwon. So the other schools believe that the prestigious schools are just wasting resources, and he tells everyone they need to reach the peak of the first stage in the next few months. He mentions that Fan is their captain, since he has the most points, but Fenrir notes that if anything strange happens, she'll withdraw her students. The next day, the freshmen take on a task to defeat a group of people, and even though they fail the first time, they manage to defeat them after they form a strategy on how to attack them. They all get new weapons, and as Fan tests his spear, he breaks a rock, but Fenrir yells at him for destroying the environment. She gives him a book, which explains a sword technique created by a general called the Blood-Burst Blade, and she tells him to practice it. The exchange competition hosted by Mo-woo finally begins, and a man named Hwarong greets everyone, while Yua wonders where Sean is. So Hwang notes that he might still be in the underground cave, and Fan's friends and his sister Yuan also arrive to watch him fight. They manage to get backstage by following a YouTuber named Dolly, and Fan is surprised to learn that Yuan has also formed a club. He also remembers who Dolly is, so he tells him to make him look good in his videos. Hwarong explains that each team captain will hold a lottery ball, and he notes that the laser will reveal the inbuilt matchmaking system, telling everyone they will see the result at the stage. He begins by introducing Team Jingwon, and he notes that their captain is the champion of the National Martial Arts Tournament named Han. But we learn that he's so strong that everyone thinks he has already reached the second tier. Next are the 8 schools in the Martial University Alliance, which can't compete solely under their school names, so they contain students nominated by multiple martial arts schools. After Mo-woo is introduced, all the captains grab a lottery ball, and their matchups are set. The tournament begins after Yua gives a speech, and the first match is between Jingwon and the Martial University Alliance. Jingwon sends Han for the first matchup, while the Martial University sends their captain named Sun. As they start fighting, Sun covers himself with his energy and rushes towards Han, who blocks his attacks and pushes him back. Sun continues to attack, but Han jumps back and starts walking in the air using his void stance. He attacks Sun with his spear, but he blocks it and tries to counter, but Han suddenly disappears and stabs him in the stomach. Sun grabs the spear and pulls it toward himself to get close to Han, but he takes out his sword and uses it to threaten Sun, forcing him to give up. As the matches continue, the whole world is glued to their screen, while Quinn and Wong decide to enter the cave. Quinn thinks Fan won't reach the second round, so he tries to bet with Wong, but he just tells Quinn to focus on what they're doing. The first match is about to end, because the Martial University Alliance has only one member left named Gisheng, and his opponent prepares to finish him off, but their mentor throws in the towel. The people wonder why Gisheng didn't give up on his own, so Hwarong notes that a warrior can't surrender no matter the situation. They mention how Gisheng's grandfather took their family to the Donlen underground chamber, where they all fought to the death without retreating, so Gisheng is the only one left in his family. The audience gives him a standing ovation for fighting with such spirit, and Mo-woo's match is about to begin. But Yuan starts crying and asks Fan to stop fighting, so he tells her it isn't an option since he's a warrior. Fan faces off against a boy named Zhang, who's from the 8th School Alliance, and he's surprised when Hwarong mentions that Fan knows the Lion's Roar technique. Fan notes that he's currently gathering energy, but seeing him walk around the stage, Zhang thinks he's just bluffing. He attacks Fan with his spear, but he blocks the attack, and Zhang is surprised as he separates his weapon into 2. He knocks back Zhang, who uses his ultimate technique to continue attacking, but Fan dodges the attack. He combines his weapon, and he uses his blood-burning sword to attack Zhang, cutting his spear into pieces. So he decides to surrender, and everyone's impressed by Fan, but the Mo-woo students wonder if he can survive the second round. Lu mentions that Fan only plans to fight in the first round, but he's shocked as Fan decides to continue fighting, and Zhang apologizes to their team captain Wei. But he notes that he was able to analyze Fan thanks to Zhang, and he mentions that Fan's special attack used up most of his health points, so he won't be able to use it again. Fan takes 2 energy pills, and Wei notes that he won't be able to get back to 100% even if he took 5 pills, but everyone's shocked as Fan recovers all of his energy. The 8-School Alliance sends a boy named Hong to face Fan, and Wei tells him to attack Fan's lower body, thinking it's his weakness. As the fight begins, Hong immediately goes after Fan's legs to make him lose balance, so he doesn't even have an opportunity to attack. He smashes the ground to knock Hong back, but he grabs onto Fan's spear and kicks him away. As he holds the spear to Fan's head, he thinks he has won the fight, but Fan suddenly kicks him in the stomach, and he forfeits the match. Wei immediately goes after Fan so that he doesn't have an opportunity to take the pills, but everyone's shocked as Fan starts flying using the void stance. As he takes the pills, Wei tells him he shouldn't take them in a large amount, because it will eventually hurt his body. But he isn't bothered, since he's really just using the system to restore his energy. As they clash, the shockwaves from their attacks almost hit the audience, but Yua blocks them. Fan rushes towards Wei, who covers his body in energy, and he kicks Wei in the back, but the energy on his body blows him away. They attack each other with their ultimate moves, and they appear to be evenly matched, but we see that they've both reached their limit. They start punching each other with everything they have, but as the fight drags on, Wei's health falls to 0, so Fan wins the match. Everyone's amazed by their fight, and Wei wonders if Fan will still continue, so he takes a recovery pill and notes that he'll proceed to the next match. Meanwhile, Wang asks Quinn if there are energy stones in the cave, and he mentions that he's sure, telling him he's been scouting the area for 2 months. He thinks he should get 60% of everything they find, because he discovered the place, but Wang demands 70%. He tells Quinn that the warriors they need to fight are in the 3rd rank, and there might even be someone stronger than them, so he needs more resources. He explains that all the martial schools are after the resources in the caves, so that they won't need to share them in the exchange competition. He notes that he's taking a big risk, telling Quinn he'll blame him if they don't find anything, and they prepare to deal with the guards protecting the cave. After losing to Mowu, the 8-School Alliance also suffers defeat at the hands of the Martial Arts Alliance, so they're eliminated from the competition. The next match is between Jingwen and Mowu, whose winner will advance to the finals, while the loser will face the Martial Arts Alliance for a place in the finals. Before the match begins, Tang mentions that only 5 students are allowed to participate in the next round, and he thinks Fan shouldn't fight in it, because he'll be targeted. Everyone thinks a warrior should never back down from a fight, which makes Tang angry, and he asks them if they plan on fighting with bravery once they enter the underground lair. But they have no idea what he's talking about, so he reminds them how Fan barely managed to win in the previous round. During the fight, he revealed all of his strengths to Jingwen, who won their match with minimal effort, while hiding their full power. He thinks that instead of going all out against Jingwen in the next match, they should analyze them first, and fight with full strength in the finals. Fan thinks that if they fight the Martial Arts Alliance in the knockout round, they'll be even more burned out before the finals. But Tang mentions that the members of the Martial Arts Alliance are also injured, so Mowu can win easily. He tells Fan that he can't win against Jingwen just because of his ability to recover quickly, and he notes that even if he can win single-handedly, the other students also need to develop. So Fan accepts the decision, and as they go out to the stage, everyone's surprised to see that Fan isn't in the lineup, but Han just tells his team to focus on themselves. Tang tells everyone they don't need to fight head-on, but they're pumped up to make Jingwen use their true strength. The first match is between Zhao and a boy named Shu, and as the fight begins, he immediately attacks him using his spear, which knocks him back. Everyone realizes that Jingwen was really hiding their strength, and Shu continues attacking Zhao, who manages to block 3 of his attacks. But the bones in Zhao's arms start to shatter, and Shu attacks him again, but he hits Shu's eyes to blur his vision, and kicks him in the nuts to defeat him. Both of them are taken out on stretchers, and the nurse reveals that Zhao's arm is fractured, so he won't be able to fight for the next 3 months, which makes Fan question Tang's strategy. The next match is between Lu and Han, and as they start to fight, Lu rushes towards Han and attacks him with his spear, but Han dodges the attack. He tries to hit Lu from behind, and he manages to block the attack, but he still gets blown away. He uses his special attack as he throws his spear towards Han, who easily deflects it away, but the referee stops it so the crowd isn't injured. As he's distracted, Lu punches him in the face, but he grabs his arm and kicks him in the stomach. He takes out his sword, but before he can hit Lu, Tang concedes the match. Xiaomei steps in to fight Han, and she tries to hit him in the nuts, but he blocks her kick. She headbutts him, and he gets injured, so everyone realizes that he can't temper his skull. As she tries to hit him again, he stabs her arm with his sword, but she grabs onto him and headbutts him again. He wins the match as she falls unconscious, but he also falls to his knees, so he decides to step down. Jingwun's student named Wensong faces Lei in the next match, but he easily dodges all of Lei's attacks and defeats him. Mouwu's last member Songting immediately steps in, but Wensong overpowers him and sends him flying into a wall. Meanwhile, Qin and Wang are being chased by a group of people, and Qin tells Wang to throw away the energy stones. He tells Wang he knows how important they are to him, but he needs to remember that he can't save his teacher if he's dead, so he throws away the stones. Mouwu defeats the martial arts alliance to reach the finals, but Tang yells at them since they didn't follow the strategy, so Fan notes that they can't think about defeat before the match. Fenru arrives, and she mentions that she came to pull her students out of the competition, but she's surprised to see that Fan is more insightful than Tang. So he notes that if Fan is so confident, he'll immediately send him to the underworld. The students ask Tang which 3 students will fight in the finals, but he notes that Fan will choose since he's the captain. He selects a student named Jin, thinking they'll have an advantage if he's their fighter, since the opponents haven't seen him fight. Yunzi mentions that she also hasn't participated, and her mentor Bai tells her she's too gentle to be a good fighter, so she should just stick to supporting others, but Fan selects her as well. Meanwhile, people on the internet vote on who they think will win the finals, and the support for Mouwu almost falls to 0. The first match is between Jin and Jingwun's student named Guang, and as the match begins, Jin immediately rushes towards him. He prepares to block the attack, but Jin slides underneath his legs and attacks him from behind, injuring his arm. He covers his arms with his energy and starts to attack Jin, who jumps up in the air and tries to smash him to the ground. But Guang grabs his arms and starts spinning him around. Jin takes off his gloves to get away and blows them up, so the audience thinks he has won the match, but Guang suddenly punches him in the stomach, smashing him into a wall. Yunzi steps up and tells Guang to concede because he's injured, but he becomes angry and hits her with an energy attack, which knocks her unconscious. He also falls to the ground, and as he's about to be announced as the winner, Yunzi suddenly recovers because she had taken a revitalizing pill before the fight. Wensong steps in to fight her next, and he starts attacking her as she uses her sword to fight back, but he keeps insulting her swordsmanship and calls her teammates useless. So she becomes angry, but she throws away her sword, and Bai reveals that even though Yunzi tries to fight with a sword, her real strength lies in close combat. Wensong tries to hit her, but she jumps in the air and starts beating him up. He grabs her leg and slams her to the ground, but before he can hit her with his family's secret technique, Fan blocks him and concedes the match. He mentions how they both have the same family name, and it almost caused Fenru to attack him, since she has a grudge against Wensong's family. Fan attacks him with his spear and sends him flying out of the stage, so Han steps in to fight next. They start clashing with each other, and Fan uses 70 vitality points to shoot an energy attack at him, but he's shocked as Han blocks it without using his energy. He starts to overpower Fan, and as the commentator notes that he's being suppressed, he gets angry and tells him he's being biased towards Han. Fan separates his spear into 2, and he tries to hit Han, who instantly goes behind him and smashes him to the ground. He takes a vitality pill and recovers his energy, and we see Qin watching with Wang, wondering if Fan can keep fighting forever if he has enough pills, but Wang thinks there must be a limit. Han realizes that it isn't in his best interest to fight a long match, because Fan will just keep taking pills, so he gathers his energy to attack Fan. He takes out his sword, and rains down slashes from above, but Fan dodges all of them, and he tells Han he can recover his health endlessly. So Han decides to end the fight, and he starts glowing as he unleashes his ultimate attack, which hits Fan and knocks him down. He now realizes how strong Han is, and Fan knows that if he keeps fighting, the system will be exposed, so he wonders how he can defeat Han when his style doesn't work against him. But he comes up with an idea as he remembers Fenrir's advice, and his body starts glowing as all his injuries disappear, which makes everyone wonder if he took a revitalizing pill. But Han knows that something else is happening, and he tells Fan he won't be able to beat him with his techniques, but everyone's surprised as he starts using another student's style. He attacks Han with Sun's forward slash and follows it up with the tiger stance, so Han creates a barrier to block the attack, but Fan hits him using the Chen family's Wu hook. He charges in, destroying Han's barrier, and Han tries to block his attack, but his sword shatters, and Fan punches his head with all his might. Han gets knocked out, and everyone can't believe it, as the host announces that Fan won the match. After the tournament, Fan thinks about how strong everyone is, and he knows that he needs to grow stronger if he wants to win without help from the system. He shows everyone around his dorm, and they're surprised by how big it is, while Yang mentions how he lives in a room with 8 people. Dolly gets a call from an investor, but as he prepares to leave, Fan tells him that since Dolly is using him to make money, he expects a share of his company's profit. Lu and the others run into Fan, who asks them if their injuries have healed, so Lu mentions that since they won the tournament, the school took good care of them because they got plenty of resources. All of them are going home for the vacation, and they wonder who will be stuck in the first rank when they meet again. As Fan and the others head home, Wu mentions that the rankings for the first rank have been published, but they're surprised to see that Fan is only at number 6. He thinks it isn't that shocking, because there are thousands of people in the first rank, but he doesn't care about it, since he has already broken through to the second rank. They think he'll soon catch up to Wong, but he mentions that Wong is at the top of the 3rd tier, thinking he might even reach the 4th tier in a few days. But Wu notes that it isn't that easy to level up, and Yang mentions how Wong also reached the 2nd rank in his first year, so Fan thinks he needs to level up more quickly. They arrive at their hometown, and they're about to grab a taxi, but Fan decides to walk home. As he walks around town, a man praises him for his performance in the competition, and he asks for his autograph since his son is a fan. But before he can leave, his fans start gathering around him, telling him they want to be as strong as him. The next day, he thinks about how the system has upgraded to level 3, which allows it to display the number of bone-tempering items. He notes that it has upgraded by 10 million points, so it will need 100 million to level up again, and he thinks it's a ridiculous amount. He decides to enjoy his day off, but as he goes outside, he sees that the man who took Ban into custody is waiting for him. He tells Fan that due to his recent achievements, the economy of their city has gotten better, because it has become a target for investors. So the authorities decided to give him a new house as a reward, and Fan becomes shocked hearing this. He thinks Wong also deserves a reward, since he was the one who took down Ban, but the man notes that it was Wong's idea to give him the house. He calls Wong, and tells him they should split the reward, but Wong mentions that he already got what he needed. Fan asks him if they can get together during the Chinese New Year, but he notes that he needs to take care of Nini during that time, so they'll need to wait until after school starts. After that, Fan takes his family to their new home, and they can't believe how big it is. His mother is worried that there will be problems, but he tells her to live comfortably because he has earned the house, telling Yuan that her school is near the house. Everyone enjoys the new year with their friends and families, and after the vacation, Fan meets up with his classmates. They're shocked to learn that he has already reached the peak of the 2nd rank, because they're still at the initial stage, so they think they need to catch up to him. He gets a call from Wu, who invites him to visit them in Nanwu, and Fan mentions that he needs to meet Wong as well, so Wu tells him to come with his classmates. They agree to go with Fan, since they want to meet Wong, but Fan mentions that they might not see him since he's busy. They go to the Nanjing University, where Wong greets them, and he's impressed to see how much Fan has improved. He mentions that when he defeated the seniors at Mowu, it motivated them to become stronger, so he feels like they owe him a favor. He needs Fan and the others to humiliate the students of his school, because he wants to light a fire under them, and he notes that if Fan's group wins, they'll each get 3 2nd-tier vitality pills. But they think it isn't a good reward, so Wong notes that it's the most the school can offer, since they have limited resources. Everyone agrees to fight, but Fan is against it, because he thinks someone might get hurt. So Wong mentions that if he agrees to his request, he will help them in the future without asking anything in return. Fan wonders if it's really necessary for them to fight, and Wong notes that he needs to change the mindset of their students, so Fan agrees to his request. Fan calls Tang and tells him about the situation, telling him their safety is at risk, so he requests 50 2nd-tier life-saving pills, but Tang becomes angry. He yells at them for getting in trouble, but he gives them just a few pills, and notes that the dean will come there for their safety. After that, Fan mentions that they can only select 5 people, so he asks Song Ting and Yunsi which one of them will fight. Songting thinks Yunsi should be selected since he just broke through to the second rank, but she becomes angry seeing the look on Fan's face. She mentions that she isn't as useless as they think, but by her eyes, telling her to show her true strength. She gives the elixirs to Fan and notes that she also brought their weapons, but he thought the dean was coming, so she mentions that he's in Governor Dingnan's office. Meanwhile, the students of Nanjing aren't taking the fight seriously, but Wang tells them they don't have the right to look down on others. He mentions that if they lose the fight, the warriors will exchange elixirs for 5%, while the non-warriors will be expelled if they can't become warriors before the end of their second year. One of them thinks it isn't fair since the non-warriors won't even fight, but Wang expels him on the spot, and everyone's shocked by his actions. He tells them how everyone thinks that if they just get into the school, they'll become a warrior and live a privileged life, but he notes that warriors are always putting their lives at risk. Dingnan arrives and agrees with Wang, telling them they shouldn't blame strong people if something bad happens to them, and he notes that Nanjing doesn't need people who think that way. Wang proposes that if they lose the match, the school should expel 90% of the students so that they can conserve resources to train truly elite soldiers, and the principal accepts his request. The first match is between a boy named Peifong and Lei, and as they start fighting, he immediately attacks Lei with his spear, but he blocks it with his hands. Peifong bends his spear to catch Lei, but Wang thinks bending a weapon isn't impressive because it doesn't help in defeating the opponent. He notes that a spear isn't good at fighting in close combat, so instead of learning something as useless as bending it, Peifong should have increased his speed to stop people from getting close. Lei gathers energy in his hand and punches Peifong, who tries to block it, but Lei steps back and kicks him with incredible force, allowing him to win the match. Wang tells Fan to go in next and defeat the other 4 opponents so that he can reform the Southern martial arts. As Fan steps on stage, Dingnan wishes he had joined their school since the underground lair might open soon, but Huang assures him that Mowu will help them if anything happens. A girl named Lan steps up to fight Fan, but he starts laughing and asks her if her parents have a grudge against her since they gave her such a weird name. She becomes angry and starts attacking, but instead of fighting, he just runs away and keeps teasing her. She tells him to stop running, but he hits her stomach and knocks her to the ground, telling her she's too weak to face him. The next opponent steps up, but before he can introduce himself, Fan stops him, telling him he won't remember his name since he's weak. Everyone becomes angry, but Fan instantly defeats him, and they can't believe how powerful he is. They think he'll easily win every match, but the principal notes that it won't be that simple, and as the next person named Gyu comes to face Fan, he realizes that Gyu is stronger than the others. But he throws away his weapon and decides to fight with his fists, so that they can see the difference between him and everyone else. They start clashing with each other, and Fan's fists start bleeding, but he still keeps attacking. Bar reveals that the reason Fan threw away his weapon is because he knew it wouldn't help him in the fight, and Huang notes that Gyu is using a defensive stance, so he isn't wasting energy. Fan jumps up in the air and tries to kick Gyu, who dodges the attack and prepares a counter, but Fan manages to get away. Gyu continues to pressure him, and he realizes that he was outsmarted because Gyu has been conserving his energy. Bar remembers that Gyu was ranked as the 24th strongest in the second-tier rankings, and Wang mentions that his father sent him to the army for training just after he became a martial artist. So he has more combat experience than Fan, and Wang thinks Fan reached the peak of the second tier too quickly, so he has become complacent. Gyu launches a special attack to finish him off, and Fan tries to block it, but he ends up getting injured. The students cheer for Gyu, but Fan gets back up and tries to kick Gyu, but he gets punched instead. Fan grabs onto his arm, and they start exchanging blows, as Dingnan wonders how Fan can still fight on. Huang notes that he wouldn't have become Mowu's top freshman if he didn't have the heart for fighting, and everyone's amazed to see such an intense fight. Huang thinks they should call it a draw, because someone will get seriously hurt if they don't stop the fight, but Dingnan tells him to wait a little longer. Fan grabs Gyu and starts headbutting him, and he takes a step back, but Fan kicks him out of the ring and wins the match. He tells the next person to step up, but Wang notes that he's already proven his strength, asking everyone if they want to challenge him. But they all lost hope after seeing how strong he is, which makes Wang angry, and he mentions that a warrior never gives up. He tells them to become strong enough to beat Mowu and avenge their school, so they become motivated to improve. After that, Dingnan asks Fan if he wants to join Nanjun, telling him that if he attends their school, he'll make sure Fan will have a position in the martial department after graduation. He doesn't know what to say, so Dingnan tells him to think it over, and he just hopes Fan will help them when the time comes. He reveals that he was the one who created the blood-burst blade when he was at the 4th rank, but he gives Fan a new book, telling him he improved the technique after reaching the Master Realm. Fan notes that after fighting Gu, he realized that he needs to get stronger, so he wants to reach the 3rd tier before he thinks about joining Nanjun. Fan returns to Mo Wu, where he gets a call from Wu, who reveals that Lan's admirers are looking for him, since he was the one who brought Fan to Nanjun. But he tells Wu to get stronger, so that the people will be too scared to attack him. Fan sees Quinn beating up a group of students, and everyone's surprised as a student named Ji arrives. He's annoyed at Quinn, because ever since he reached the peak of 3rd rank, he's been acting like he can do whatever he wants. He attacks Quinn, who blocks his attack and pushes him back, telling him his 3 bone temperings are no match for him. He throws away his sword, and Ji tries to punch him, but he grabs onto his hands. So he kicks Quinn in the nuts, but he isn't bothered at all, because all of his muscles have been refined, except for his head. Everyone starts leaving, and Quinn tells them that even if they can't accept it, he's still at the top of the 3rd rank. After that, he starts bothering Fan, but Fenru arrives and sends him flying into a wall, and she tells him to pay for all the damages he caused. She tells Fan to come with her, and he wonders if they should take Quinn to the infirmary first, but she tells Fan to leave him alone. Fenru takes Fan to the energy room, where she explains that the warriors at the 1st and 2nd rank refine their limb bones individually, which means they can be unified. But she explains that the 3rd rank is different, telling him he needs to refine his entire spinal cord to show his true strength at the 3rd rank, and he thinks it's how he can reach the peak. But she reveals that in order to do that, he needs to refine his skin, tendons, and flesh. She tells him to open a training room for 5 hours, but he's shocked when the administrator asks him to pay a fee of 50 credits. Fan enters the training room to cultivate, and Fenru warns him that he shouldn't connect the channels in his spine randomly. But he suddenly lets out a scream as his body starts glowing, and Fenru becomes shocked seeing this, thinking he's a master in the making. He breaks through to the 3rd tier, and asks her to give him 10 3rd tier vitality pills, but she tells him to stop fooling around. Meanwhile, Yua gets a notice, asking for 2nd rank warriors to go to the underground cave, but he's hesitant to send them. Huang notes that they will only be sent to the areas of the cave that have already been unlocked, and Yua tells him to protect them in secret if anything happens. Fan runs into Yunsi, who's looking for Bai, and as the teachers who were sent to the underground cave return, Yunsi is shocked to see that Bai is among them, and that she lost her arm. Yua and the others arrive, and he's happy that she was able to come back alive, while she asks Fenrir to take Yunsi as her student. She starts crying, since Bai won't teach her anymore, and Fenrir mentions that she's suffered severe injuries, which won't heal for the next 3 years. One of the men who went to fight in the Lansway underground cave notes that their battle was a success, since they managed to hold back the enemy forces. But 6 of the mentors died, and Yua vows to avenge them, while Fan wonders what the caves are. They hold a funeral for the mentors who passed away, and after that, Bai explains to everyone that the underground caves have been present since ancient times. The first cave was discovered in 1303, and Fan wonders how they found its entrance, so she mentions that it was a complete accident. She reveals that once the underground creatures found out about their world, they tried to go through the portal, and we learn that the few beings present there are even above the 9th tier. So if they were to come to this world, humanity would be in danger, but Fan wonders how humans can easily go through the portals. Bai thinks it's the universe's way of compensating the weak, revealing that the spatial barrier has been weakening, and it has reached a stage where even a 3rd rank person can break through. She tells them there are 22 entrances to the cave, and she pulls out a map of Mowu's underground cave, but Fan is shocked at how big it is, because 13 cities have been marked on the map. She reveals that a master-level expert has explored 3,000 kilometers east of the cave, but they still haven't reached another entrance, and there's also an endless ocean in the cave. So she thinks the cave is limitless, or it's at least 100 times bigger than Earth, and the number of beings present there must also be greater than humans. She notes that the resources present there are also greater compared to what humans have, so the beings that live there are also stronger than them. After that, Bai leaves Yunsi with Fenru, who yells at her, because even though she's extremely talented, she still has only reached the mid-level of the 2nd tier. Fenrir tells her to go back to her family, and Fan tries to lighten her mood, but she also yells at him. He mentions that his credits have run out, and his family isn't that rich, so his progress has slowed down. But Fenrir decides to make a deal with him, telling him she'll give him resources, and in exchange, he needs to deliver a letter for her and take care of a person. He agrees to her request when she offers to reward him with 1,000 credit points, so she gives him the letter and the picture of the person. She tells him to wait at the South District for 2 days and deliver the letter to an old man who will come out of the underground cave, and she asks him to tell the man that his daughter misses him. Fan goes to buy vitality pills from Lee, and he shows him the picture of the person Fenrir told him to take care of. But Lee reveals that the person is the Lord of the Tianmun City, which is a 9th grade realm in the Mowu Cave, and Fan can't believe he needs to deal with him. At night, Fan goes to the South District with Lu and Lei, and he tells Lu to deliver the letter because he's afraid of Fenrir's father. A man appears, and Lu gives him the letter, but as Fan approaches him, the man sends him flying. After that, Lu reveals that the man was Sean, who is the vice president of Mowu, and Fenrir's ex-husband. He notes that Sean is at the mid-level of the 8th tier, and he's number 47 in the ranking. Lu tells Fan that Fenrir and Sean had a daughter, and since he was overly confident in his strength, he took her with him to the cave. But they ran into a powerful enemy, and he could do nothing except watch his daughter die. Fenrir divorced him after the incident, and she went to each of the warriors' houses who were with Sean, asking them why they couldn't save her daughter. Fan realizes that the Donghu family must have been present there, which is why Fenrir has a grudge against them, and the powerful enemy that Sean ran into was the Lord of the Tianmun City. Fan goes to the training chamber, where Fenrir tells him that after he refines his spine, the bones of his limb and torso will connect. It will cause his body to transform, so he needs to guide a large amount of vital energy to refine his body, telling him it's his chance to break through. Sean and Huang arrive, since Sean wants to see Fan train, and he's surprised as Fan uses his mental energy to capture energy particles. Huang thinks he used too much energy to refine his back, so he won't have enough energy left to break through. But they're shocked as he reaches the high level of the 3rd tier, and they realize he's built different. The next day, Fenrir starts teaching Fan new moves, and after that, he goes to Lee, asking him how he can talk with an underground being, since he doesn't know their language. But Lee notes that the underground beings don't communicate with them, and Fan mentions that he just wants to learn how to insult them. After that, Yua and the mentors gather to see off the students before they go to the underground cave, and Yua gives a motivational speech before sending them off. They arrive at a military base, and everyone's surprised to see how high the level of security is. Tang shows a soldier their permit, which allows them to enter, and as they go to the underground mission hall, Tang notes that warriors from different regions enter the passage under their area's name. As they keep moving forward, they come across a huge door made of alloy, and Tang mentions that it's the last line of defense against the cave. Fan is shocked when he thinks about how much it must have cost to make it, and a man tells him to focus on clearing the cave so that they won't need the door in the future. They enter through the door and reach the portal to the underground cave, but as Fan puts his arm through it, he tells everyone to back off. They become scared, but they realize that Fan is just messing around, which makes them angry, and Xiaomei kicks him through the portal. Everyone else goes through as well, and Fan realizes that the path is made of energy particles, so he wonders if he can capture them using his mental energy. Tang mentions that masters can stir up the portal temporarily, and Fan wonders why they don't do that to prevent anyone from entering, so Tang notes that the portal is getting stable over time. In the beginning, 2 masters could affect the portal, but it currently requires at least 10 masters to achieve it. They go to the other side of the portal, where a man named Zhu greets them, and Tang reveals that he's the highest authority of Mowu's underground defense team. As they go outside, they're shocked to see how close the sun is, and they feel that the entire atmosphere is filled with energy. After seeing the houses, Xiaomei can't believe people live in them, and Zhu tells her their only goal is to defeat their enemy. He reveals that Tianmun City is 80 kilometers away, and they're always at war with each other. But they can't do anything other than defend against the underground dwellers, and they refuse to just sit back and watch, so they send small teams to fight the enemy. He mentions that the attacks from Tianmun City have become more frequent, and in the last year, they've already had 6 major battles. He warns them that the underground is filled with bloodshed, and if they don't take down their enemies, they will be killed instead. He notes that the students' only goal is to become familiar with the environment, so they go with Tang and a teacher named Zhang to explore the area. Fan sees that the city walls are made of steel, and Zhang tells him how rank 2 and 3 underground dwellers' limbs can damage normal walls. So they decided to make steel walls, which allow them to focus on higher-level enemies. They see plenty of mounds in the area, and Zhang mentions that they don't have time to burn the fallen warriors, so they just bury them where they die. Tang tells Zhang to take the second-tier students and follow the plan, while he takes the third-tier students deeper into the underground. He notes that he'll take them to the place where humans and the underground dwellers are fighting, but after that, it's their own responsibility to survive. Fan thinks splitting up the team is wrong, so Tang tells him to go in alone, since he's stronger than everyone else. He tells Fan to fight the enemy instead of wasting time with everyone else, but Fan mentions that it's his first time in the cave. Tang notes that it doesn't matter, because third-tier warriors like him don't need protection from anyone, asking him if he only feels proud to show off his skills in front of the weak. Tang tells him how Wang has already defeated countless enemies in the cave, saying humanity needs warriors who are ready to fight, and they have no need for people who hide among others. He mentions how he's brought plenty of people to the cave, and instead of waiting for the school to make preparations, they usually take the initiative to go out on their own. He knows everyone has high expectations of Fan, but he's disappointed by his attitude, and he thinks Fan is far behind the others, telling Fan to prove him wrong. After that, Fan gets separated from the group, but he's ambushed by a cave dweller, who hides in the bushes after attacking him. Fan senses him, and easily takes him out, realizing he's a third-tier warrior from Tianmun City. But as he takes the energy stone from his body, 3 other warriors arrive, and he manages to hide in the bushes before they see him. Fan realizes that they've sensed his presence, so he runs away, and they start following him. They fire an attack towards him, and he counters with a slash from his spear, but it has no effect. He continues to run away, as he shoots an energy attack from his mouth, but they fire an arrow to block it. Meanwhile, Huang also arrives in the cave, and as he looks for Fan with everyone else, they come across the body of the cave dweller that Fan defeated. Fan runs into the Cunning King, so he realizes that he has entered the forbidden area, and as the warriors see the monster, they try to run away, but it drains all of their energy. It starts to sniff Fan, who throws an energy stone to distract it, but as he tries to run away, the monster stops him and starts draining his energy. Huang wonders if Fan entered the Cunning King's forest, but he thinks Fan isn't that stupid, because they told the students never to enter it. He mentions how the monster is at the peak of the 7th tier, and it's currently even more dangerous, because it's about to break through to the 8th tier. The Cunning King drains 10 million vital energy points from Fan, but it suddenly goes to sleep, and he realizes that it wants him to return with more cave dwellers. He tries to run away, but he comes across another group of cave dwellers, so he leads them back to the monster, and as it drains their energy, he runs away again. He sees an army of cave dwellers gathering, which makes him realize they're about to launch an attack, so he needs to warn everyone, but it means going back through the Cunning King's forest. He knows he has no other choice, so he lets the monster drain his energy, but as he takes the equipment of one of the cave dwellers, he gains 6 million martial arts points. He decides to use them to upgrade his system, so he starts bringing cave dwellers back to the monster, and as it drains their energy, he takes all of their equipment. The system upgrades after he gains 100 million martial arts points, which gives him the option to refine his skull. But he's shocked seeing that it takes 1 million points to refine it once, and he needs to do it 177 times. He decides to leave it be for the time being, and picks up all the weapons he gathered to deliver them to the defense team. Meanwhile, Fenru also arrives in the cave, and she's shocked to learn that Fan is missing, but Huang notes that they need to worry about the Tianmun army first, since they're planning to attack. Fenru yells at everyone for losing Fan, but Shan tells her that she shouldn't let that distract her from the imminent threat, and Zhu tells her to calm down. But she mentions that her daughter died in the cave, while most of her students have been injured there as well, so she can't calm down. She notes that if they had courage, they would have done what Jingwen did in their cave, instead of just protecting a single city. Shan reminds her about the masters who lost their lives in the Jingwen cave battle, and he notes that they can't risk everyone just for Fan. He tells her she isn't the only one who's lost something close to her, and he warns her against attacking recklessly, but she notes that he's just worried she's going to ruin his plan. Fan arrives while being chased by the cave dwellers, and as one of them is about to hit him, Tang blocks the attack. He covers his body with flames, which scares their leader, and as he tries to run away, Tang catches up to him and breaks his arms, but he still manages to get away. As they return to the city, Fan tells everyone about the number of enemies he defeated, which shocks them, and all the soldiers congratulate him. After that, he tells Fenra how he wanted to prove Tang wrong, but she yells at him for being reckless. He mentions how he managed to get through the cunning king's forest and saw the enemy assembling an army, so they decide to prepare their soldiers for war. Shan mentions how they usually only need to worry about Tianmun City, but they've joined hands with others, so Zhu notes that they need to use Hope City's defenses to win the fight. Zhang wonders if Yua will help them, but Shan reveals that Yua doesn't have much indestructible substance left in him. So if he's heavily injured, he won't be able to heal his body, which means they need to fight the war on their own. Meanwhile, the students are worried, because a war is about to start, but Lu tells them they've been waiting for such an opportunity to become stronger. Fenra tells Fan he needs to go back since he's injured, and he refuses to leave everyone to fight on their own, but Lu reminds him that his weapon has become useless. So Huang gives him a new blade, and he reveals that it's from the cave dwellers' medals that he collected, revealing that he converted them into 2,000 credit points. As everyone prepares for the battle, Fan takes 2 revitalizing pills to heal himself, and he knows that he needs to reach the 8th rank to achieve self-regeneration. He notes that after the system was upgraded, he has been able to continuously use his vital energy, so he feels like he's about to catch up to Wong. After that, he's surprised to see Quen, who mentions that all the 3rd rankers are there since the Great War is about to happen. But Fan doesn't see Ji, so Quen notes that he went to help the admissions office. Tang tells everyone their assignments, and Lei doesn't want to be on the defensive team, so Tang yells at him, reminding everyone they're at war, so they need to follow the plan. He notes that the enemy will send their low-tier suicide squad first, so Fan and Quen's team needs to take care of them quickly. The enemy army arrives outside the city, and Zhu sees that the East Sun City has only sent their 7th tier generals. So he realizes that they don't intend to fully support the Heaven's Gate City, which has sent 3 8th tier fighters. The 2 armies start clashing with each other, and Mo Wu seems to have the upper hand, as they start defeating the low-tier warriors. A few of them manage to reach the wall, and they start climbing up, but the Mo Wu warriors knock them down. Fan and Lu use a combined attack to defeat the enemy in front of them, but they're attacked from behind, and Quen comes to their rescue. He blows back the enemy, and throws his sword into the air, before kicking the enemy up as well, where the sword impales him. The Mo Wu soldiers inject their energies into giant crossbows, which fire energy bolts at the enemies and blow them up. The enemy commander named Hugh decides to enter the fight and starts clashing with Shan, while the other high-tier warriors hold back Mo Wu's mentors. The soldiers ask their captain if they can use the energy cannon, but he notes that it will consume millions of energy stones, so they can't afford to use it. Hugh breaks Shan's necklace that had his daughter's picture, and as Hugh defeats him, Fan tries to help, but Quen stops him, telling him he can't do anything at his level. One of them attacks Fenru from behind, but a magic bolt saves her, as Yua arrives with reinforcements from the other schools. He starts fighting Hugh, while the other masters hold back the high-level cave dwellers, and everyone becomes motivated watching them fight. Yua cuts off Hugh's arm, telling Hugh he isn't a match for him in a one-on-one fight, but he's shocked as Hugh regenerates his arm. Hugh attacks him, and even though he dodges the attack, it still cuts off his hair. Hugh starts attacking the soldiers, and Yua realizes that even if he can hold Hugh back, he can't stop him from hurting the others. So he decides to sacrifice his life, and he blows himself up along with Hugh and his army to save everyone. The enemy's soldiers start running away, and the masters realize that Yua gave his life for the next generation, but they can't believe they lost their principal, and they mourn over his death. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.